Hello and welcome back to another episode of Real Talk, WHIP's one and only movie show. You are listening to WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Share your thoughts with us on social media at WHIP Radio. Jordan Hallerman in the studio on this cold Wednesday night. I'm joined by Andrew Kent and James Mason. How are you both doing?
Yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Still have a lot of movies to check out, and don't know if I can watch them all before the end of the year, which really stinks.
That is quite the conundrum.
Yes,
but
it is.
We do have some breaks coming up, so that should help. Obviously, the show is about movies. This weekend saw the release of Dr. Sleep, the newest Stephen King adaptation, a sequel to The Shining. After all these years, you guys both got to see it. I did not. What did you think of Dr. Sleep?
Shortest terms, it was much better than I expected it to be. Certainly, I thought it was a lot better than it really had any right to be. But it was okay. It could have been better, but it should have been worse. So I think that's the shortest way I can put it. What did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good. I pretty much expected it to be exactly the way it went for me. So I'm actually a little surprised it wasn't. It was better than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was going to be terrible. Like
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did not. I mean, it's a sequel to a movie that didn't need a sequel, and the movie was what 1980, so it's almost 40.
Yeah, it's almost 40 years.
39 years, 40. Yeah, it's a 40-year-old movie, which doesn't make it bad, but like a 40-year gap between movies is always like a big red flag. Like, the Wizard of Oz sequel came out 50 years later, and that wasn't terrible, but like people praise it because it's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sets the expectations.
What I liked about this movie, and I do have a big question for you guys. Well, not really a big question, but a question for you guys that I'm looking for a little answer to. But what I liked about this movie is the first 2/3 I thought were very chilling, thrilling. It did enough for me.
A little rhyme there.
Yeah.
Think of a third ink.
It did. Let's see.
Exciting.
Exciting.
Chilling,
Yes.
thrilling, and
Thank you.
exciting. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
I got you.
I think there was a good build up to the climax of the movie. For whatever reason, I was glued to the screen. I was transfixed by what was happening, even if some of the stuff didn't really mean too much. It didn't do everything I wanted it to, but it was still there happening in front of my eyes, and I really enjoyed the first 2/3 of this film. I thought that the characters were well developed. I thought it was a good story. It was a story that I was interested to see how it would play out by the end, and I really liked the characters and the cast itself. I thought that Rebecca Ferguson was a great villain.
Yeah.
And
there was a guy in our theater who liked Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh, yes, yeah. So during the movie, in the middle, Rebecca Ferguson is...
It was like halfway, it was like an hour and a half into the movie.
Yeah, and she was grocery shopping, and all of a sudden, it's really quiet, and it's a close-up on her face as she was... there was something going on with one of the other characters, and the guy in the theater is like, wow, you sexy as hell, or whatever. I'm like, wow. Wow.
Correct me. I mean, he's not exactly wrong, but I'm like, you waited an hour and a half to say that? Like, she was in the whole movie. She's had plenty of screen time until now. Like, I mean, I kind of liked it. The one thing I really liked about this, and I was saying it earlier, is there's no jump scares in it. Like, it really just relies on atmosphere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think there's like one or two. Like, it's not completely devoid, but...
Now, is this... Where would you classify this? Because obviously I don't watch horror movies.
Yeah.
I was intrigued by this movie because it does seem very interesting. But would you say it's more... Would you still consider it a horror movie even though it's not... Like, was it scary or was it more just like a thriller?
I'd still consider it a horror movie. It's not just a big in-your-face horror movie. It's sort of like the way they used to make horror movies in the 70s. It's very psychological.
Like an unsettling...
Yeah, in an unsettling way. Like, there is scary elements to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't terribly scared by it, but there was one scene that like really was like very disturbing to watch. I
feel like I might know what it is. I've heard one thing.
I didn't know that was in it, and so like I kind of knew what was going to happen in the scene. I'm like, okay, and then they really did not hold back. They like full on went. They made it as graphic and as horrifying to watch, and that got to me.
Are you talking about a scene that took place in that?
It's right after the baseball game.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I'm
I know.
not spoiling it, but
no, you're not. I know. Yeah,
I
that
can't even
was.
say who's in it.
I'm not gonna lie though. The person in that scene, I don't like that actor very much.
Oh, I like that actor.
I don't.
I didn't realize he was in it. I'm like, oh.
I didn't realize either, but the movie that he was in earlier this year, I was like, I hate that movie.
I know. I know.
That movie's terrible, and so now after seeing that movie, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad this is happening in this movie. Good.
All right.
Keep doing it.
You
But
wanted him to die.
So, oh my God. Moving away from spoilers, what would you both give it as your rating?
So I would give it.
Doesn't have to be a number. Just what is your however you rate movies?
6.5. I'll give it an.
I would give it a step above that. I would think it's closer to 7.5. But one last thing I wanted to touch on with this movie.
What's your question?
So Ewan McGregor, I thought he was a great addition to the movie. I love Ewan McGregor. I think he's an awesome Obi-Wan. Overall, I can never complain about Ewan McGregor in this movie. I think he was one of the best aspects of the whole film. But my main question is, why do you guys think that Ewan McGregor was picked to play an older version of Danny Torrance? I'm just confused. Out of all the other actors that look a lot more like an older version, if you were to look at an older version of Danny Torrance, what he looks like now, I'm surprised that they decided to choose Ewan McGregor as his actor because, I don't know, Ewan McGregor is not... He hasn't really been in anything huge since Star Wars. He's an actor I love for Star Wars, but besides Star Wars, I don't look at Ewan McGregor for anything else major. So I'm just wondering why they decided to go with Mike Flanagan, director, why he chose. Yeah, why?
I feel like he
was in the third season of Fargo and the sequel to Trainspotting.
He was in Christopher Robin. He was in Trainspotting.
He was in Christopher Robin. I forgot about that.
I just don't understand why they chose him.
Well, I mean, I think he's a good actor, and I don't think he.
Salmon Fishing in the Yemen was. Salmon Fishing in the Yemen was the movie that I was trying to remember.
I thought he pulled off an older Danny. Like, I didn't think he looked too dissimilar to him that I couldn't believe it.
I don't think they just wanted to get
a big star.
Not only a big star, but you just want a good actor for a movie like this to both carry the film, but also carry the film in terms of the actual film, but also in terms of marketing. You need someone who's marketable in this case.
Yeah, and
he fits both.
Yeah, I will. Do we have time?
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Well, the other thing, did you guys see the second It?
Yeah,
no, I don't.
I did.
The other Stephen King sequel that came out it was all right, but I realized with Dr. Sleep, I had the same issue with It too, which is that it is way too long. They're both 2.5-hour movies, and they both the first 2/3 are fine. Like they weren't riveting, but they were fine. And then when both of them get to the climax of the movie, it's like a half hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah,
it just drags on and on.
Well.
And you can do that and it'll work, and in these cases it feels like watching the Transformers action scenes where they don't build up to. It's not like building up in these grandiose climaxes. It's just like it feels like it's going on and on and on.
Well, you know what's really weird for me is that I found the middle of the chapter 2 to be a little bit too slow. The scenes where they're having flashbacks and stuff like that. I think you could have completely cut the entire sequence out of the movie, and it would have made the movie a lot better. That's just me.
No, I agree. I think they could have cut not to get too much into It too, but you could have cut the flashbacks out.
I guess.
Yeah, with Dr. Sleep again, it's a 2.5-hour movie. It's 10 minutes longer than the original, and the original is already a long movie. It doesn't need to be that way. I feel like they were trying to make this like kind of a slow, meditative, psychological horror.
Oh my, yeah, this movie's at 152 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's 2.5 hours.
Oof.
And they can still do that and keep it at 2 hours. Like Ad Astra had the same vibe and pace, and that was a half hour shorter.
Yeah, Astra even had problems with the runtime though. That was
still a little too long.
That still felt like a long movie.
I mean, it was supposed to, but yeah, it still felt long. And so this. And I'm with you. I liked the first 2 hours of it. I kind of liked, but I realized it was getting slow, and so I was getting happy because you realized at the end it's all right, this is the big payoff. We're almost done. And then I'm watching. I'm like, oh no, they're doing the same thing as It too. This is just going to go on forever.
Yeah.
And the other thing too. I forget if you saw The Shining.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
The problem is it's one of those sequels where you have to see the original. It doesn't stand up on its own. And for the first 2 hours, I kind of liked it because there was nods to The Shining. Like, they would copy shots, just like this. Yeah, and it was really cool. And I liked that. But then, at the end, it becomes a complete Shining ripoff. Like, it stopped having its own identity. It became completely indebted to the first movie. And that disappointed me. I'm like, if this hadn't used The Shining so much as a crutch, especially for the last half hour, I think it would have stood on its own really well, and it could have been an even better movie.
Now you've mentioned that it seems to rely on the source material a fair amount, which makes sense as it is a sequel. This movie did not do great at the box office this past weekend.
No, it did not.
It was number 2 domestically, grossed $14.2 million. Second to Midway, which grossed $17.9 million. That's the new
Roland Emmerich.
Yeah, Roland Emmerich, disaster, explosions.
Isn't it the same movie as Pearl Harbor?
Very similar. But I guess my question for you guys is, as people who have seen this movie, do you think that this movie failed because it might not be a traditional horror movie, that it relies on the source material too heavily? Do you think there's a reason in particular? Maybe a poor release date? I don't know. I feel like it could be a multitude of factors, but
this is an odd movie to me. I don't really know what the identity of Dr. Sleep is.
Mhm.
To me, it doesn't have much character. It's just kind of there. It's floating. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining. It has a lot of good things in it. But the marketing for this movie, I guess you really had to rely on The Shining, but I feel like they didn't really even do that. So I feel like people had no clue what this movie was actually about, what it's supposed to be. I think there's just a true lack of identity with Dr. Sleep, and that's why it failed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the other thing too is with horror movies, it's mainly a very young crowd that goes to them. So, and the young crowd right now, and this annoys me, they love the jump scare movies.
I was
like
going to
they love
say
Sinister and Insidious, and with all due respect to them, but I get annoyed with them because it's all jump scares. It's just really quiet and then a loud bang. But people love that, and so this movie is the antithesis to that. Or am I saying that right? It's not. It's not antithesis, but it's spelled that way. It's the opposite. All right, it's the opposite of that, and it's trying to go back to that traditional way. But the problem is, like, if young people go to see it, and I got bad word of mouth from audience members because they said the same thing. Like, yeah, if there's no jump scares, they don't find it scary. Yeah, and it also doesn't help that it's so long. I think that was the other thing that killed it. It's a really, really long movie, and unless it's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, that can pull off the runtime, and people don't mind that it's that long, it's gonna kill you at the box office.
I was gonna say, and the fact that this didn't have, like, I don't know how to explain it, but this didn't have a
fan base or
a fan base, or even like
because
a talent to latch onto. Like with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you had all the big names. You had Tarantino, you had DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie. I could keep going, but with this,
like a third of Hollywood,
it's Ewan McGregor, who most people know. Rebecca Ferguson isn't really a household name.
I mean, the only reason I know her is because she was in the last two Mission Impossible.
Exactly.
And I think most people only know her as that. She's a very good actress.
Yeah,
but
and
she's
many
just not
people
that
even
well known.
don't know. You'd have to sort of jog their memory and be like, she was in the last two Mission Impossible. Maybe then they'd know. But
I honestly would even say that Ewan McGregor's not the most marketable name. I would go as far. People know him for Star Wars, but I feel like people don't know him for much else.
Especially to a horror demographic.
Maybe, and I think that's more of an American thing because I know he's bigger back in Britain and England.
Well, I know he is.
Train Spotting and the Danny Boyle movies he did.
Well, also, he's from. You can keep going,
but that hurt.
Yeah, he's Scottish. That's why.
Yeah, Scottish. Sorry, screwed that up. But yeah, well, the other thing too. This was Veterans Day, right? Or the weekend was.
The weekend was Veterans Day.
Yeah, so it made sense that a movie about Midway, a movie about veterans in World War II, would obviously dominate the box office. You know, that was the perfect release date. This should have been released back in October, but they couldn't do that because then they they would have to compete with Joker, and then they would still have to compete. It would be a month after It Chapter 2.
I was gonna say this movie seems like it should have been released in maybe a February or March, when the weather's still kind of cold.
Yeah, no, it would have done better then.
And there's not much around. Honestly, I think February would have been the perfect month to release this movie.
If not October. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I think the fact that it's not a traditional horror movie makes it hard to put it in October, but also Joker. Obviously, we know that it was a Juggernaut.
Yeah, there's that. It also, I think it too also hurt it because it's the second Stephen King sequel coming out within.
That's true. 2 months.
So, it's the same thing. Like, that's the main reason Solo failed. Like, there was a lot of reasons Solo failed, but it came a month and a half after Star Wars 7, I think.
Well, no. It was The Last Jedi was released in December, and then Solo came out in May.
All right, so but it's still, like...
Yeah.
And it wasn't... and at that point, people were starting to get Star Wars fatigue, so when you released them that close
I was going to say,
together,
the backlash, the fact that the trailer came out, like, 2 months after The Last Jedi dropped, it just was a whole lot of bad backlash at the same time. Yeah. But in this case, obviously...
And so there wasn't the backlash here, but I think it's just the fatigue. Like, it's another Stephen King movie. It's another Stephen King sequel. The book, like, it was a popular book, and still is a popular book, and the movies were popular. The Shining book was popular, but Dr. Sleep wasn't that popular of a book. Like, I bet until the trailer and the movie dropped, most people didn't realize there was a sequel to The Shining.
And even the title doesn't. It's not the same as. It's not an instant recognition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not name recognition.
Wait, when was Dr. Sleep written?
I want to say 2013.
Really recent.
Oh, that recent?
Recently,
yeah.
Yep, 2013.
Oh,
what?
Boom.
Wow. So that's
Makes
a newer.
Up for not knowing where Ewan McGregor was born.
So that's a newer Stephen King novel.
It is. It's one of his most.
I had no idea. So they really adapted that thing into a movie relatively quick.
They did.
6 years.
I will commend them with this. They did a good job with. I haven't read the book, but I know I'll commend it with adapting it because the Shining book doesn't follow the movie, or the movie doesn't follow the book at all. So obviously the book is going to follow the book, not the movie. So they had to find a way to change the book to match the movie and make sure the movie fits up with the movie and the book still fits up with the book. So that's not an easy thing to do. So I commend them because they did a good job with that.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see if this movie gets a boost from the Thanksgiving holiday or even just the next few weeks, because even if it doesn't gross a lot, it might not have enough competition in its field where it's still able to do decent at the box office. I think it might have good legs, but that remains to be seen. These next few weeks are going to get pretty crowded, not in terms of horror movies, just in terms of big movies, which we'll talk about later in the show. And on that note, we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Real Talk on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. We'll be back in just a bit. Hello and welcome back to Real Talk. You're listening to WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Share your thoughts with us on social media at WHIP Radio. Jordan, James, and Andrew still in the studio on this Wednesday night. Last segment, we were talking about Dr. Sleep. James and Andrew reviewed it. I, over the weekend, got the chance to watch 2 movies, one for the first time, one on rewatch. I got to rewatch Jojo Rabbit for a second time now. That movie still holds up. It is my favorite movie of the year so far. Highly recommended if it's playing in a theater near you. And I think it'll be a big awards contender. I know, James, you mentioned you really liked it too last week.
Yes, I did. I don't know how big of an awards contender it's up for Best Adapted.
I think it might get a Best Picture nomination.
It'll probably get nominated, yeah. And I think it deserves that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's
a good movie.
Yeah. I praised it last week. We praised it.
Is it really that good, though?
It is.
I personally love it.
Didn't the critics not like it as much? As
it had the same reception as Life is Beautiful.
Yeah, it's got a mixed reception, but I just love this movie so much.
What do you like about it so much, though? What's great? Why should I go see it this weekend?
Well, without going too much into it, because I want to talk about the other movie too, I think on every level, this movie excels. It's not a perfect movie by any means. I don't want to make that point, what I'm trying to say, but the acting is excellent. I think it's well directed. The script has a good balance of humor and drama. It balances the tones really well. And I think overall, just an important movie for the time right now. I think it's something that everyone should see. And I think it's presented in a way that can appeal to multiple audiences.
And it's very warm-hearted. That's what got to me. It's like a very...
It's dealing with a very intense subject matter, and it doesn't shy away from it, but it also doesn't beat you over the head with it.
No, and again, it's just got a very big heart, so it actually, I hate calling it a feel-good movie, but it made me feel very happy at the end of it.
I was going to say, you go on a roller coaster of emotions, more or less, but at the end, you walk out on a positive note.
If you walk out of this movie and you're not happy, I feel like there's something wrong with you, or if you don't feel, good about it.
And then
what was the other one you saw?
The other movie I saw was a new Netflix original
called
Let It Snow.
And how was it?
This is a romantic comedy. Has a pretty good cast, actually. Shameik Moore, who was Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse, is one of the main people. But also, it's a lot of young adult actors and actresses. So Jacob Batalon, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, who was in the Marvel MCU Spider-Man movies. He plays Peter's friend Ned, is in it. Who else? Kiernan Shipka, who plays Sabrina the Teenage Witch on this Netflix show. It's a lot of big people, but they aren't too big, but you recognize them. You're like, oh, I know them. Joan Cusack also has a small role in it. She's probably the biggest.
Oh, good for her.
Biggest name.
I'm glad she's still acting.
But yes, this is it is in the vein of Love Actually. It is a teen romantic comedy where you have a bunch of little stories and then somehow they all connect. And I really like this movie.
I just love you so much, James. You're so hot.
Look, if you want to trash on it,
I want to joke back, but I don't even know what to say.
If you want to trash on it, you can. I really, really like this movie. I mean, it's with Netflix romantic comedies, they're always entertaining to some degree. But this one,
a lot of them are pretty bad too.
I enjoy them, but also I just like the genre.
So are you a Hallmark guy too?
No, I don't watch Hallmark movies.
At least you're a man of principle.
Because the Netflix ones usually have one or two celebrities, so it's like, oh, okay. But the Hallmark ones is usually very low tier. But yeah,
at least they get their money.
I think it's a really solid movie. It's good entertainment. It's a nice holiday movie, and it's a good romantic comedy. If you're looking for something to watch on Netflix.
If you don't want to watch Doctor Sleep like the rest of us in the room.
Yep, exactly. If you're looking for a good romantic comedy for your significant other or not significant other like me.
I wanted to make that joke. Who'd you see it with?
Saw it by myself.
Well, it's on Netflix though, right?
Yep.
I mean,
So it's designed to be watched by yourself.
yeah,
or
pretty
with
much.
other people. It's enjoyable though. I really did like it. I do recommend it. But enough of that. Enough of.
I'm gonna watch it right now. I'm gonna pull it up in the studio.
Well, we're actually gonna live stream our thoughts on it next week.
We're going to be on Twitch next week watching the movie, talking about it.
Exactly.
Oh.
We'll be simulcast, Twitch, YouTube, every platform. We'll be watching this, interacting with the audience.
Great.
The person who made this, I'm curious, did they make anything else, or is this kind of their debut?
Let's see. Well, it was based off of an already existing thing, but the guy who
What sort of
directed,
thing, like a movie, or
I believe it was a John Green novel.
Oh,
He's involved
John
in it.
Green.
okay, that makes all right.
In
That's
a
starting to
new
make more
movie.
sense.
Let's see. It was a book written by Maureen Johnson. Sorry, it was 3 stories. John Green wrote one of the stories.
Okay,
And then they
That's kinda
took
cool.
the stories and turned them into a movie, but they also expanded on it. Apparently, they added in some stuff.
So is it like 3 vignettes, or is it just 3 stories that all overlap?
It's more than 3 actually. They added maybe 1 or 2, but they're all. It takes place over a day, I want to say, and then it has their different storylines, and then towards the end they start to merge, and eventually at the end they all come together.
Oh, see, now I kind of take it back. That kind of sounds interesting.
It's
I
a
like
good
stuff like
movie. I mean, it's like
that. We saw a horror movie. You saw a romantic comedy. How can we
it's
not
like
make
a
fun of you?
teen Love Actually, but the quality isn't as high because obviously it's.
Love Actually
the
wasn't that
Netflix
good of a movie, too. I'd say that
All
quality.
right, you watch your mouth right there. Love Actually is a classic.
A lot of people watched and enjoyed it. I will not go.
You
as far as
see,
say it's a
wait.
classic.
We always talk
It is
about.
a holiday
You
classic.
know how earlier we were talking about how a lot of horror movies with the jump scares are the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Well, I always find these
That's fair.
Christmas
That's
movies the
fair.
same
I
exact
will,
thing.
I will accept that criticism.
It's always
romantic
everyone
comedies
just-
do follow a template.
Everyone falls in love. They get in a fight and they fall in love again. I get it. Or the person doesn't realize the other person's in love with them, and then there's some other shenanigans that happens at the end. They fall in love again. Like, I don't know.
That's the wrong guy to the prom, but then they got to make it up to the geeky guy, and
Yeah. Ugh.
I get the appeal.
It's
I
not-
don't mind them.
I found it enjoyable. I think if you two give it a shot, you might enjoy it.
just very predictable.
No, we're gonna be cynics. We're gonna watch
Yeah.
this movie and hate it.
This is garbage. I wasted my time.
This
But
is.
no. I think it was probably the best Netflix rom-com this year, if I do say so myself.
What are the other Netflix rom-coms you've watched this year?
There was Always Be My Maybe, which came out back in May with Randall Park and Ali Wong. Keanu Reeves was in that one. I can go on and on. I've seen a bunch of these.
I want you to.
Yeah. If you want, next week I'll come with my power rankings of the Netflix romantic cinematic universe.
I need an applause in here.
Thank you.
We're gonna make a movie about you, Jordan, and you're, you and Netflix and chilling by yourself.
Oh my
Watching these
God.
movies.
You really had to come for me like that. All right, that's fine. Don't
Oh,
worry.
I'm
I'll
not
get you
saying
back.
I'm not the same.
I'll get you back. Don't worry.
I am the same way. I am. Do I have a significant other? No. I watch most movies by myself too,
So
especially
what?
when I go to the theater.
Yes. No.
But yes.
I just don't watch rom-coms. I get drunk and watch The Hateful Eight for the 5th time like a man.
Oh, I tried doing that over the summer, then I fell asleep.
All right, on that note, 2 trailers quickly dropped this week.
Oh right, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot.
When we're not bashing me, other stuff is happening in the world of movies. Sonic the Hedgehog and The Invisible Man. Did you get the chance to see both these trailers, you guys? Or?
I didn't watch the Sonic one. I saw The Invisible Man. I think when.
Well, we actually saw it in theaters. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were there.
Yeah, we saw it when we saw Doctor Sleep. I heard of the trailer and I saw like people were talking about it, but I didn't actually watch the trailer until.
You're basically forced to.
Yeah. So I think it's a cool idea. In fact, when we were in the theater, there were 2 movies made by Blumhouse that were.
Fantasy Island. That was
Fantasy
the other
Island's
trailer
another
that
one. Yeah, and then there's also one other one that came out, Scoop.
there was
a couple of trailers this week, but yeah.
This was a busy week.
Yeah, it was. But The Invisible Man, I think it's a cool premise. I think it's a predictable premise, but it's a premise that I think is pretty cool.
You see, I didn't think it was predictable from what I could tell from the trailer.
You don't think it'll be a predictable movie?
I think it'll have some sci-fi elements from what I could tell.
Mm.
But I also really like the director, Lee Winnell, who did Upgrade, which was a really
Sky
great.
did Upgrade.
Yeah,
I did
that
not
movie
realize
was
that.
really good. I really like that movie.
Yeah, well, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I heard about it.
It is on HBO right now. If you have not seen it, it's a really great action movie and sci-fi if you have the time. But
My concern with The Invisible Man is I feel like it's one of the, like it seems to set up like a mystery horror, and like the whole mystery is like the whole mystery is revealed by the title. Like,
well, according to the director, the trailer doesn't spoil everything, so I'm very curious to see if that was just him trying to play it off as a marketing thing, or if he was being legit about that.
I hope he's legit about it, because that seems like one of those things where once you realize, like, I don't even want to spoil it, and it's weird saying that because it hasn't even come out yet, but I feel like it's one of those movies where once you find out he's invisible, it takes all the air out of it. Like then, almost like, do you remember the Shyamalan movies, like towards the end of his career when he was starting to slide, where like once you found out the twist, it let out all the air of the movie, like The Village or like, I don't think Lady in the Water, but in that vein, where it's like once you realize what it's built around, it's just like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I think maybe if they didn't lead on that he's invisible, maybe if like they maybe showed it to you, like that he might be a ghost or something like that. It gives you an idea, but you don't know exactly what he is. Like, you know that he's there, but you don't know what he is. But now I feel like the movie
it's called The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie just it's also true.
Now,
I didn't think
Fantasy
about
Island,
that.
I'm assuming you said you saw both of these, right?
Yes.
The Fantasy Island trailer. Obviously, Fantasy Island is based on the somewhat classic TV show, but it's obviously taking a different spin. What did you think of this trailer? I mean, it used Ariana Grande, which was an interesting move.
Yes,
but
that was really weird.
That it was, again, back what we were talking about off air about odd song choices. I always, when I see the weird song choices in the trailer, I hope they do it in the movie, because I like seeing movies that actually do it. I don't think they'll. I don't know. That's the only thing.
It might be a credits thing,
but that was I think that was my biggest takeaway. Like, the trailer didn't leave a whole lot of an impression on me, but I thought, like, hey, maybe they'll use that Ariana Grande song in the movie in a really cool way.
It felt like a Twilight Zone episode from the way the plot was.
Wait, is the original series a horror led series? No, it's not.
No.
What is it
not.
more like? I guess a romance and.
That's what I don't know. And if my parents are
Crazy
listening right now,
Elements?
they're going to kill me because I think they watched the show. But I think they're doing the same thing that they did. Well,
It was
a
a drama. They were granted so-called fantasies at the island for a price, which is similar to this the movie.
Well,
but I think.
Yeah, the movie's going for like a straight horror element, at least from what I got, or a mystery horror element.
Yeah, or even like just a thriller.
But I think they're revamping the show the same way they did with the 21 Jump Street movies.
Yeah, the show seems like, while it was still a similar, like the basis is the same, obviously the movie's going for a horror, while the show is more like a lesson type thing, where like these people want this, we're going to give it to them, and then you realize it's not what you wanted, and then the episode ends with it being resolved.
Okay.
Wasn't there an episode of Rick and Morty like that? The Needful Things parody?
Yes, with the devil. That was Rick and Morty came back too. A lot of stuff's been happening in the past week, actually.
Yeah, the only thing about this movie, and I'll wrap it up real quick, is that I hope it does, as I said a couple times already on this episode, I hope it's just not a predictable, well, this person's going to die, now this person's going to die, and they're just all going to be tacked down until eventually you get to the main character at the very end, and maybe they're going to die or not, you don't know. But I just hate that when a lot of horror movies of this nature will tend to go on that predictable route where a lot of people just die one by one, and then eventually you're left with the main character at the very end.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Real quick, if you guys had to see one of these movies, which would you pick?
Probably Invisible Man.
Fantasy Island.
I would pick Invisible Man. I do not watch horror movies, but Lionel would be the deciding factor. I just think Invisible Man's a more interesting concept.
Boom!
That didn't...
Got me.
That didn't get me.
I got the guy that likes horror movies like me.
Yeah.
I like good horror movies.
Oof.
I don't like jump scares.
I don't like jump scares either, but yeah.
Andrew, that attempt was almost as bad as
your team in New York trying to win basketball games.
No, not that. That doesn't even. This isn't even a sports show. That was as bad as that remark. That remark was just as bad as that jump scare. All right. On that note, we're gonna take our second and last commercial break. You're listening to Real Talk on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Hello and welcome back to Real Talk on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Share your thoughts with us on social media at WHIP Radio. Jordan, James, and Andrew in the studio for the last time tonight. Last segment, I was getting bullied over my enjoyment of romantic comedies, but now we're going to shift from that to a topic that is
bully-free.
Hopefully. And that is the movies coming out this weekend. There are 3 big releases, I'd say, that are opening in theaters nationwide. Those would be Ford v. Ferrari, Charlie's Angels, and The Good Liar. And then also in limited releases, Waves, And also, apparently, The Report is also opening in limited release.
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting about The Report.
But The Report will be on Amazon Prime at the end of this month.
Can't wait.
Was that I didn't realize that was an Amazon movie.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So that's why it's in limited release.
there's a
That makes sense.
2-week window, I believe, before it comes onto
Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
That and The Aeronauts are the 2 Amazon Prime movies coming out.
And Honey Boy, I
fall.
think, will be on Amazon Prime as well. because
Yeah.
it's an
Oh,
Amazon.
yeah, I
do.
was thinking that was Netflix, but
So Amazon Prime will have some good movies.
they're finally starting to get actual good movies out there.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Gives
Yeah.
me something, a reason not to go to the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it in theaters is all the fun. I see the Netflix movies
yes.
in theaters.
When I have to drive all the way 15 minutes, 20 minutes and in the city, then have to drive back and find a parking spot, that's when I just get frustrated.
Oh, I was wrong. Apparently, unlike The Report and The Aeronauts, Amazon is giving Honey Boy a traditional theatrical release, so it will not be on Amazon
Aw,
Prime
man.
that's kinda
in the same amount of time.
Isn't that movie about Shia LaBeouf's life?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah, well, it's the script he wrote in therapy. It's about him. Yeah, it's him trying to
pretty
come
cool.
to terms with his relationship with his father in his
Yep.
childhood.
Okay.
So yes, out of the bigger movies this weekend, Ford v Ferrari, Charlie's Angels, and The Good Liar. I'm assuming we're all looking forward to Ford v Ferrari the most. But
yeah, I'm definitely excited about that one.
but taking that away, Charlie's Angels or The Good Liar, which are you more
By
excited
far
for?
The Good Liar.
Yeah,
Charlie's Angels. I
I'm
can't
just
care
gonna say
less.
The Good Liar just so I can make fun of you when you say your answer.
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Why Charlie's Angels?
Well, first off,
What, is that really a surprise?
did you
to
see the most recent trailer? Because they had a remix of Bad Girls by Donna Summer that was actually pretty solid.
I saw I'm pretty sure I saw every trailer, but I feel like people only want to see this movie because it has 3 attractive women in it.
Well, that's always been true.
No,
I'm
I'm very curious to see what Kristen Stewart's performance is because she's getting really good buzz.
I think they're all good actresses. It's not that, but I will say, like, and this isn't a bash against Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels was a '70s TV show, and like Baywatch, its appeal was that it had young, attractive women in the lead. And they, the 2 movies they did before this, it was the same thing. That's its appeal. It's attractive women in action movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may as well just go home and watch Red Sparrow instead of this one, in my opinion.
Completely different movies. Red Sparrow is a drama.
With one attractive lead.
So what is this movie then? Just an action movie?
This is an action comedy.
Did you not see the original Charlie's Angels?
I never saw the original, but I've seen this trailer like 15 times, and I've heard the name Charlie's Angels when I was
This is
a
a
kid, too.
fun movie. Red Sparrow
Yeah,
is
it's-
not a fun movie.
No, these are fun. They're dumb, but
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying.
yeah,
They
don't
both,
watch the originals. by
they
the
both
way.
have to do with espionage and that kind of stuff, and a woman being the main character. Actually, in Red Sparrow, I'm pretty sure it's like a bunch of women who have like their own little
No, Red
organization,
Red
right?
Sparrow's like Atomic Blonde. It's not like
No,
Charlie's Angels.
Red Sparrow is a really intense movie, but it's getting pretty good reviews right now.
Well, it's getting better reviews than the first 2.
Yeah, there aren't
which isn't
too
a
many.
high bar to get over.
There's only 44 ratings right now, but it's sitting at a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's
Hey,
pretty good.
You know what I think is going to happen though after this weekend hits? That score will go like this.
No, I don't
Maybe
think
not.
so.
Well, on IMDb it will because anybody can vote for it, but not on.
I think this
Rotten
movie
Tomatoes.
will actually do solid at the box office. You've got 3 female leads, a female director.
Yeah, I was going to mention that Elizabeth Banks directed that.
Elizabeth
It's really
Banks,
cool that they got.
or,
you know,
Elizabeth Banks.
But
Sorry.
it's a very high-profile movie. It's a big action blockbuster, and they got
It's the first
a female
like
director.
female action movie to come out in a decent amount of time, honestly, and especially like this type of genre of the buddy comedy
Well, I'm trying to think like
action type movie.
what was the budget for it? Like I know it wasn't outrageously huge, but I know it was a pretty good amount of money they gave.
75 million.
Yeah, because I'm thinking the last time they gave that much money to a female director was when Ava DuVernay did Wrinkle in Time, and I think that was $100 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a big deal, and it's kind of sad that it's a big deal, but I think it's worth noting it.
Yeah, it's been described as delightful, entertaining. I'm hearing some good adjectives. I mean,
Those are very reserved adjectives. Entertaining.
Like, I think
It's just exquisite. It's an exquisite time at the
Splendid.
movie theater.
Andrew was hit in the head and has now gotten a British accent.
It's wonderful. You'll have a good time. Bring all the kids. Bring the
know what accent-
grandparents.
I mean, yeah, it might not be bad, but I'm certainly.
I'm banking on this movie being entertaining at the minimum, which is really all you can ask. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but hopefully I will come here next week and say that I had a good time.
But yeah, you said the same thing about Terminator.
And I did. I like Terminator.
I like Terminator,
Listen,
but it's not.
Terminator was an 8 out of 10 for me.
I did not even.
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
The new Terminator. It was like a 5.5 or a 6 for me.
No, I think I'd accept 7.5, but I settled on like
Except 7.4. We're negotiating now. It's the Pawn Stars of movie ratings.
I got a guy. I can bring him in.
Yeah, basically.
Let's see what my buddy says.
Yeah,
my buddy says 7.5.
My feelings for Terminator were the same as yours for The Lighthouse.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I'm glad I didn't see either one of them. I guess I can't be on the discussion.
Yeah,
No,
Andrew,
but
how does it
Lighthouse is a
feel
good
to be
movie.
on a movie
See
show
that.
and not see any movies?
Oh, I mean, I'll be seeing Ford v Ferrari tomorrow night.
There we
for
go.
sure.
There
and,
we go. Yeah,
There we go.
and hopefully Midway. And then,
Oh my, you're getting me excited now. 2 movies?
Well, usually I see.
Strain yourself.
Well, the problem is I'm booked from Monday night to Wednesday night because I have 2 night classes on those nights. And then
Imagine taking a night class. Oof.
But it's fine because I'll be able to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Run the
then you
breaks
got
and-
time.
I mean, I've seen actually a pretty good amount of movies this year. I mean, I've seen looking back to the beginning of the semester, I saw It Chapter 2 on opening weekend. I saw Ad Astra on opening weekend. Rambo: Last Blood. I mean, I've seen pretty much everything that came out that was big.
Yeah, you saw all 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's 3. That was the only big releases in that month. And then
You saw
Abominable.
Joker, didn't you?
Well, that was October. Yeah.
Oh, you were just talking about September. Okay. cool.
September,
You
and
said-
then
Okay.
October I saw pretty much all the big releases. The only movies I didn't see were the indie ones yet.
The good ones.
I saw the
you don't watch true cinema.
These aren't this. I don't
Well,
watch movies. I watch film.
Well, I
Martin
mean,
Scorsese was right.
well, I'm just waiting for the opportunity to go drive the King of Prussia, so I don't have to spend $10.
I've heard the
somewhere.
King of Prussia theater is nice.
It's very nice.
It's not bad.
I mean,
I've been there 50
we can't
times.
agree on anything today, can we?
Hey, that's
We
the-
can't agree that we want to see
Hey,
Ford v Ferrari.
what
That's the one thing all 3 of us can get.
We're all
behind.
very excited. We'll be
well,
excited
hey,
too.
would a show would be good if there was no disagreements?
No. Actually, maybe. What do you think?
I think you
I
need
was
a
trying to think
screaming.
of a pun, but
You-
No, I was waiting for someone to say no so I could say yes.
No.
I mean,
There we go.
it could be good if we're all in agreement. I mean, we've had shows like that where we're praising a movie.
Well, but remember last year? So when Fantastic Beasts 2 came out,
Oh,
and me and Will Levford went at it.
that was
Great. And you
intense.
said we both had 1 minute to talk, so I
Yeah,
went
I
off.
just set a timer for that one because I didn't want.
Ooh, wow.
It wasn't that bad.
I'm sorry I missed it. That sounds like fun.
That
No,
movie
they were on very opposing sides.
it was a horrible movie.
Frozen 2's, by the way, is getting really good buzz right now. Very excited.
Oh yeah. I wasn't crazy about Frozen 1. I think Frozen 1's a bit overrated.
I think it's a solid movie, but this one apparently similar to something like How to Train Your Dragon, they've aged up the franchise apparently, so it goes in a bit of a darker direction.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
I just hope there's not that many songs.
It is a musical, Andrew.
It's a Disney movie.
There will
of
be
course
songs.
there's songs.
I know there's gonna be songs, but like at least pull a La La Land where, okay, maybe the first couple like the first hour is heavy with music, and then the last hour is more story driven. Just don't make the entire movie. Oh my God, we're in the climax now, but here's a song.
I
First.
hate to break it to you, but this is a movie for families and children.
Okay, but the one thing I don't
That
get. though-
audience is not
One
coming
thing I
for
don't
the
get.
plot.
One thing I don't get though. Do people actually like go in their cars and download the soundtracks
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
these
Oh, yeah.
movies and listen to them and say they're really good?
You've
Because
never done that?
no,
Yeah.
maybe La La Land has really good songs, but that's it.
Yeah. People
Still
do.
though, people
People
if
do that
you
all
hear
the
a
time.
good song in a movie, that goes in the playlist and it just becomes a part of the car
The only
playlist.
Disney like movies that I'll listen to the soundtracks on repeat is High School Musical. High
That's
School
it?
Musical 2, actually.
What about Camp Rock? And, you're getting
Oh,
mad at me
Camp Rock
Yeah.
for
2?
watching
Oh
romantic
my God,
comedies,
I'm mad at both of you now.
and you're
Camp-
sitting here going, "I have High School Musical 2
Camp-
on my playlist
Camp
rotation."
Rock 2, actually.
Please.
I'm sorry. Camp Rock
Please.
2.
Camp Rock 2. Oh yeah, make that.
Camp
a lot
Rock
better.
2 has
Camp Rock 2 is better than
banging
Camp
songs.
Rock 1.
They're both terrible.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. Oh, they are so bad movies.
Camp Rock 2 is good.
No,
This is
it's
like
not.
being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I
On
can't-
one hand, I'm like, Andrew, you shouldn't be doing this. But on the other hand, I'm like, I also do this.
Yes. Wait, what's wrong with Camp Rock 1 and 2?
They're crap. They're so bad. Have you watched them recently?
Yeah.
Yes.
The acting's terrible. The
Speaking
songs
of Camp Rock and Camp Rock 2, quick plug. I did get Disney Plus. I watched the first episode
are-
of The
yeah, we didn't talk about
Mandalorian.
that. How is that? How is the Mandalorian?
The first episode came out yesterday. The second episode will be dropping this coming Friday, and then they'll be on a every Friday release schedule. I think it's really good so far. It's a short the episodes aren't that long. I'm not sure if it's the same length for everyone or if it's variable, but this one was about 40 minutes. Really good so far. It takes a bit of getting used to because it's not Star Wars has only been really a film medium for stories, if that makes sense. So
Well, they've done TV shows, but I don't think they've done any
none live action.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit to get adjusted, but by the end of it, I'm all in. I really like this, and I think it's gonna be a really good show. That, and I also saw the High School Musical show, which
Oh, we tie back into High School
really
Musical.
wasn't that great, but
Just like the movie.
it's also not meant for adults. So yeah,
At that
Bottom
point, I
line,
don't think
though,
any of us can call ourselves adults.
I really like Disney Plus so far, though. I if it has a lot of stuff that you watch, like it has a lot of old Disney shows. It has a really good selection of movies. It's got some Fox movies on there, like Avatar and the Simpsons movie. I saw 3 Men and a Baby was on there too. But
I'm curious. I mean, did you watch any episodes of The Simpsons on it?
I watched one, but apparently there's like the way it's presented.
Yeah, that's what
The aspect ratio is off, but the episode I saw didn't. It was too old for that. Like I watched the very first episode, the Simpsons Christmas special.
Yeah, what is it? Simpsons roasting on an
Open fire. Yep, it's my favorite Simpsons episode.
Really, that's your favorite?
Yeah,
I'm a monorail fan.
That episode just part of my childhood. That's why.
Oh yeah, all right.
Wow,
I get that.
so you guys are really big Simpsons watchers.
Not really, but
I'm
that's
a
just
decent sized one, but it's a good show.
on a
I don't
scale
know.
of 1 to 10. I'd say I'm about an 8. No,
Listen, I never really watched any of those animated comedy shows.
in terms of size, maybe a large.
Yeah, I was always more about like the Nickelodeon original shows and all that. I never really got into South Park, Family Guy. or
Victorious is on
Simpsons.
Netflix. This isn't a movie show, but that is also.
Oh wait, did they actually switch it up? I hope they start doing that with the other Nickelodeon.
Drake
shows.
and Josh is
Drake
on
and Josh
Hulu.
gets
Victorious on Netflix,
Please
and
add Zoe 101 for crying
Or
out
Ned's
loud.
Declassified.
Nezzy Class, iCarly.
Yeah, iCarly's good.
iCarly's all right.
Ugh,
It wasn't nearly
I
as
picked the
good as
wrong
Drake and
time
Josh,
to
though.
plug iCarly. Jimmy Neutron, Fairly Odd Parents.
Jimmy Neutron was on Hulu for a while. Not all of
Jimmy Neutron's still on Hulu. My
Is it
bad.
still on Hulu?
Yeah, and SpongeBob is on Amazon
My
Prime.
old roommate and I used to watch it every day after class, like
But
2
yeah.
years ago.
Oh wait, that's what I'm doing when I get home. I'm gonna watch. Yeah, Jimmy Neutron. Can't
All
wait.
right. Well, on that note, that has been our show for tonight. Thank you very much for listening. This is Real Talk on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Have a great weekend. Have a good night. Stay warm, and we will talk to you next week.